All right, Cole, we have our makeup on, we got our coffee here. Today we're talking about why are investment opportunities in Latin America taking off. Let's set the stage a little bit, talk about what we're seeing. Really being down here in Colombia, where we've been collectively a decade now, starting to see more and more capital come here than ever before. The likes of SoftBank, Berkshire Hathaway with Warren Buffett, even in our own portfolio, lots of high net worth folks, accredited investors. What do you think are call it the three main reasons why we're seeing so much more interest in LATAM? And just to kind of shape and talk about numbers a little bit as you think about your answers, one stat that always grabs us and that we share with investors, just looking back a few years to 2017 when I first was coming here, that year, speaking about venture capital coming into Colombia, $20 million in 2017 of investment. Just 2 years later, over $1 billion in 2019 coming into the venture capital space and continuing to grow. What do you think are the three reasons you could pinpoint as to why this trend is occurring?
Sure, thank you, Adam. Number one, lack of deals in developed markets. So what you see globally, I would say, is private equity, venture capital, angel investment. It's all dominated in developed markets. What we're seeing in developed markets today is there's not enough deal flow to compensate for all the capital that's being raised. Almost every fund in the world can raise more capital than they can deploy. That's number one. Number two is you have a historical underinvestment in Latin America today versus what you'd see in other areas of the macro world. So for instance, in China, we'll have 8-10 times the amount of investment per nominal GDP than what you'll see here in Latin America. That doesn't make any sense. And number three, I think the other one that is kind of a transitional thing that's really happened in the last couple of years is you're seeing a lot of high-level exits happen here in Latin America. The likes of such as Rappi, likes of, let's say, Nubank coming out of Brazil. These are big boy companies making big boy money, and they're basically leading the way to show, hey, middle market and low middle market consumer base here in LATAM is worth going after. And they're not coming in at unicorn status of $1 billion. They're coming in at tens of billions of dollars in value. So those are the 3 points I would say are the most important for why you're seeing significant inflows of capital here in LATAM.
You saw this living in China, and you mentioned it now. One of the interesting statistics we saw and we just wrote about a couple weeks ago, same per person GDP between Latin America and China, but 20 times the investment going into China. So you look at it from an investment perspective, and it really makes you wonder, why are equally productive assets not getting tapped into? And the things we're doing here in Colombia on our own end are being matched, duplicated, exceeded by some of the largest investors in the world. SoftBank, who many of you watching this video will know, launched an $8 billion Latin American investment fund. We're seeing the likes of traditional investors, Coca-Cola type investors like Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett, investing half a billion, $1 billion plus in companies here that have the chance to really disrupt markets, whether it's in agriculture, technology, financial technology, property technology. People are starting to catch on to what's going on here.
That's right. That's right. And I think what you're going to see is venture capital, private equity, angel investment, they want to find arbitrage. And one of the most important stats that Adam just said is really that 20-to-1 ratio of how much capital goes into a market. Where we see value here at Legacy Group in Latin America is largely that when we got here, let's say in 2015, no one was really playing. There was no big players that were coming in to compete, and you can be a big fish in a little pond very quickly. When you have a 20-to-1 ratio of capital coming in, if we needed to deploy $1 billion of capital in China tomorrow, we might have a very difficult time. Here in Latin America, there's more opportunities than there is capital. And so you kind of have the reverse situation of what you're seeing in China, the United States, developed Europe, and it's very exciting.
If you're a high net worth guy and a credit investor looking for some opportunities, you've basically tapped out the opportunities you mentioned. The public equities are inflated. You can't find good deals on real estate. We should talk a little bit about the things that we're doing here, the kind of market disrupting companies that we're seeing here. If you look in the background, you can see the sign for Polygonus. It's an investment that we made in Legacy through Legacy Group back in 2019. And these guys really are on the verge of becoming the most innovative technology company here in Colombia and competing on a global scale. And I think their success, not only because of the incredible talent, but also the market opportunity in LATAM and traditional markets that are underinvested, where you do have that market disruption potential.
That's right. And that's use our two examples that we have for big four portfolio companies here at Legacy Group. So let's start with Green Coffee Company. So we founded the Green Coffee Company in 2018. Basically, you have a 0 to 5 year runway. And this year, we're going to be the largest consolidated producer of green coffee in the country, in Colombia. Now, for viewers who don't know, the national product of Colombia is coffee, right? So we've invested $25 million to date. And to date, we've gone from nothing, basically a startup company that's purely venture backed with syndicated equity offer from US high net worth individuals. And we've gone today, we're gonna be the #1 in the country. That's huge. By far the most sophisticated, by far the most scaling enterprise within the coffee industry. Polygonus, when Polygonus was seed funded in 2019, it was 3 partners, 3 very talented guys with a dream to make basically the most sophisticated VFX business here in Colombia. And with the advancement of what they're doing with video game design that bleeds into the VFX market, and what they're doing with the academy that is going to transition the lives of thousands of people here in Colombia, they're going to be one of the most important technology and entertainment companies in Colombia, I'd say within a year or 2. And so that's 2 examples of companies that they didn't receive $4 billion of funding. They're not doing pre-seed rounds of $50 million. They're making real businesses that are already profitable. That's the key as well, is in Latin America, companies have to be profitable to receive funding. You can't burn capital all the way into you IPO for investors to take notice. So here you have kind of reverse on what you'd see in other parts of the world, and it's very exciting.
The coffee opportunity and getting to #1 so quickly, and without being confident without cocky, getting to #1 is, we've seen the competition. And the competition really is lacking because of access to capital and underinvestment. There's industries here that are 40 years behind, where there would never be in developed markets like the US or Europe such a gap between where we are now, where things were 40 years ago, and nothing changing in the midst of that. So for somebody who's looking at the market from an investment perspective, it's exciting, I think, to be able to, and the investment opportunities that we offer, open doors to those kind of opportunities that really don't exist in developed markets, or that have huge costs of entry.
That's right. That's right. And the other thing to take notice of what we try to do at Legacy, we prefer the model of taking heavy exposure to portfolio companies that we think have the most potential to be leaders in their industry. We're not looking to place capital into 1,000 different raw bets and throw chips on a table. We take active positions in companies that have outstanding founders, outstanding management teams, and they can be the ultimate best in whatever niche of whatever industry they operate in. And that's an opportunity that I would find to be quite challenging in much more developed markets.
So what's the opportunity? Really historical underinvestment, opportunity to get into markets that are ripe for disruption because of that. Lack of investment from outside, where you can kind of carve your own path, and really finding opportunities that don't exist elsewhere. Right? So I think those are the things to keep in mind if you're an investor outside of Colombia, if you're somebody inside Colombia looking at opportunities, if you're looking at LATAM as a whole. And our goal at Legacy Group, Cole and I are the partners of Legacy Group, really continue to provide more and more opportunities to our investor base, open them up to these opportunities. find things that are exciting for us, but that also do well financially and are interesting and motivating for our investor base.